Hey, welcome to my channel edtech. Meera here. Last tutorial was all about JavaScript introduction, where we mentioned that JavaScript is a programming language which influences the behavioral aspect of your website or app. Okay, in this chapter we'll be discussing all about further aspects of variable. Do you know what is a variable in JavaScript? A variable is actually a container to store a value. This value could be either for a number or a string. Now, what's the difference between a number and a string? We'll be talking about it in this tutorial later on. So the container has to have some kind of value, right? And this value can change. So that is why the name variable. Okay. Now, first of all, we will see how to declare a variable. Because in JavaScript, variables are very important. So you should know how to declare a variable, how to initialize a variable, and such terms are very important. So after the term, I'll explain what is it all about and how does it work. Okay. Now, how do you declare a variable? Let's say let, or let's say the value you want to talk about, you want to talk about your name, you want to talk about your age, right? So let's declare it. Okay, now the thing is, the moment you say name in JavaScript, when there are two words like this, my name, the rule is camel case. What is camel case? The first letter in this word is small letter, then the second word, so the first word starts with small letter, the second word starts with capital letter. So this is called camel case. Always remember this. So var my name. This is the way to declare, and then don't forget the semicolon. Next is let my name. So you can either declare it by using var or you can declare it by using let. We'll come into the details and differences between them later on. You can also have let my age. So this is the meaning of declaration. This is how you declare. You take a term, whether you want to talk about your name, your age, your destination, let's say address. So you already declared. You declared your address. So something like this. Okay, this is called declaring a variable, just to give you an idea of how it is. Okay. Now we remove this. Okay, next is we talk about initializing a variable. How do you initialize a variable? Okay, because when you're initializing means you have to give it a value, right? The way the var or the let has to be given a value. So that is the meaning of initialize. Okay, so let's say my name. What's my name? Equal to Kate, for example. This is called initializing. Now for it to show in your console.log, you can say console.log. This is how you show it in the console, so you know the result. You already see it, Kate. So the moment you do console.log, you can see the output on the console log screen. That's the idea. Okay, next, let's say my age. Now just keep this in mind. This is a string, okay, because whenever you have alphabets put together, letters, etc., or a word, it should always be having an open and close quotes. It should be within that. Whereas if it's a number like this, like 27, 37, whatever, 1 to 100, it shouldn't have the quotes. It should be just 27, that's it. Okay, then that's the difference, how you distinguish between string and number. Okay, console.log. What is it? My age. Don't forget the semicolon. What do you see here? 27. Okay. Next is, okay, now here what you did was first you first you declared a variable and then you initialized a variable. Okay, let's do it all in one step simultaneously, declaring and initializing a variable together. So in this case, like in this case, my name you declared is equal to Kate. So here you've done it simultaneously. Now in the previous case we had done it separately, that is I deleted it a while ago. I'll just show it again. Let my name, right, and then I show okay, so here it's happening in one step, here it's happening in one step, here it's happening in two steps, that is first declaring and then initializing. Okay, now the reason is I need to remove the previous outputs, otherwise it will show error. Okay, so you got it already. Here you go, Pat. So this is whereby you have two steps: declare first, initialize second time, and then console.log. Otherwise, straight away so what's happening here? It's already showing here the output. Here in one go, declare on the left side is already declare, and then you're initializing by giving it a value. So you do it in one step, faster, right? And then console.log. So both ways work. But usually you follow this step because it's faster when you're doing a lot of codes. Okay. Now the second, we would like to know what are some differences between var and let. Okay, let's remove this first. Okay, let's take an example here first before I speak anything about it. Let's say my name is Pat. We make a small function I call the function log the name, right? Don't worry about the syntax, we'll be doing a lot in future. So this is just to show you the differences between var and let. Okay, console.log. So it's already showing the output, Pat, right? So here what we did was we like kind of declared it after. This is the declaration, remember? We declare by calling it var by name followed by the semicolon. So this is like declaring, but where did we do the declaring this time? The last line. Before that, what did we do? We did the initialization, call the function, and then the last would be the declaring. The declaration part is the last. So this is possible for var. Whereas in the case of let, what happens if we just change this? Let's say the whole thing remains the same. Instead of var, I do let and see what happens. Error is shown. So with let, this is not possible. Yeah, so this is one difference. Okay, let's go ahead and remove this. Okay, next let's take another difference. Show you with an example. Pat is my favorite name, so I keep repeating that all the time. Okay, var my name is Pat. Okay, var again second declare an initialization together. Now I forgot to do the console.log first. Console.log. Let's remove this first. First do for the first one. Console.log my name. See what happens. It's the output shown on console is Pat. Okay, next. Kate. It shows Kate. So that's quite cool. So with var, this is possible. You can change and initialize so many times. Declare and initialize so many times and the value keeps changing, right? Okay, let's just replace the var by let and see what happens. The console is throwing an error because this is not possible with let. With let, if this is supposed to be possible, there's another way. Let's see it. Okay, first you have this showing Pat. Now you want to change it, right? So what you do is Kate and then console.log. Is changed. So this is the only way you can change. So you just change the value here rather than declaring it and initializing it 2 times. So as you can see, you just change the value of my name. You cannot like declare it 2 times, as you have noticed. In the other case in var, you can declare it as many times as possible. Okay. Next. What are the different types of variables? As mentioned earlier, but we'll go into all of them, most of them rather, different variable types. So first is a number. So example, my age. This is called number. So this type of variable is called a number, where you deal with numbers, right? Next, string. Let my message equal to good morning. My message. You can see the good morning. So this good morning message, this is called a string. So a string, there is two words we've put together here. Always you join the string, you use this inside the quotes. Remember that. Without quotes, if you do it without the quotes, see what happens. Error. You're not supposed to do that. Okay. Okay, then next is a Boolean. What is a Boolean? Boolean. Now in JavaScript, when you write these two slant figures, this doesn't show up on the output, but this is just for notes. Okay. So Boolean is something which is true or false statements. For example, let if I say let my age is 10, whereas I'm 20 years, so this would be false, right? So this would be a Boolean statement. So in order to make it a statement, you can write false, something like this, right? So we are trying to say that this is false. I hope you understand. False. There you go. Okay. Now other examples. Let's remove this. Okay, what is an array? These are the different, we are talking of different type of variables. Remember, we spoke about numbers, we spoke about strings, we spoke about booleans, and now we'll be speaking about arrays. Okay, let me give you an example. Okay, so don't forget this closed one. Okay, and the semicolon. So this is a string array, right? Just call it, you give it any name for the array. In this case, I call it my fruits array. You can even call it my fruits equals. An array should have an open and closed bracket like this, and then followed by the semicolon. Inside that, whatever items you're mentioning, if they are words, if they should be mentioned as a string. So this is string. I'm sorry, I forgot to remove this. Yeah, so this is a string. You can even have a number array. Sorry. Age groups. So something to do with numbers, as you'll see how. 27, 25, 22. So this is a number array, right? Okay, so this is the way you declare and initialize. So how do you retrieve them back? How to get the value of one particular item out of here? For example, now before that I need to talk to you about index index value. Index value, okay. So in JavaScript, the first item is always given, allocated an index of 0, next one 1, 2 in that order. So 0, 1, 2, these are the indexes. 0, 1, 2. That's the rule of JavaScript indexes. So if you want to get through to an item here, let's say I write my fruits array and then write the index is shown by the open and close brackets this way. If I write 0, okay, and then this is how it's mentioned, but in order to get the output I write console.log orange, because this is 0 indexed, 0, 1, 2. If I write here 1, it shows apple, and so on. Same thing goes for the number. Okay, now the next thing that we'll be talking about is objects. Okay, JavaScript objects. You have objects in real life, right? Like books, TV, the sofa, table, watch, etc. So this is something like that, synonymous with that idea. So let's say you have an object which is called cat. I just declare and initialize. Let cat equals, don't forget the curly brackets. You'll get used to it once you start doing it. Let's say the name is Giku. Again, comma. What's the breed? British. Okay. Next, what's her age? 6. Don't forget the semicolon. So here you declare an object which is called cat with these qualities. The breed is British, the age is 6 years, and her name is Kiku. Okay, how do you retrieve the object? How do you retrieve the object, one of the items? Let's say you want to retrieve the object cat's name from the array. How do you do that? Console.log is just to get the print, but before that I'll show you the syntax for that. It's called, the syntax for that would be cat dot, this is called a dot notation, so cat dot name. So the cat dot name would be Gigu. So in order to get that output here, the console dot log cat dot name. So what do you get here? Gigu. Instead of name, if you were to use in the dot notation, if you use the breed, what do you get? I should have written breed here. Okay, British, and so on. If had I written the age, cat.age, so you'd be showing it here in the output console.log as 6. Similar. So this is called the dot notation. So the object name dot the name dot the breed and dot the age, whatever items written here, etc., etc. I will be doing more examples later on, so don't get confused. Okay, so next is we were speaking about number and string, that is the data type. Now how do you identify what is a number and what is a string? Though we know already by examples, but there's a way and a syntax for that. It is called type of, right? Okay, for example, let's say let my number equal to 700, right? So it's the type of, what do I say, type of 700. What should it give? But here it's catching an error because I didn't write console.log. So type of 700. Let me remove all this. Okay, I have to remove this. So here, as you can see, it's showing clearly in the output as number. So 700 is a number. Okay, and supposing I was to write a string, the same thing had I written like this. Type of, and I need to repeat the same thing. So it would show string. So you have to be very careful of not using these codes on a number, then it will be identified as a string. Okay, so in this case, in the earlier case, let's say I write Pat what does it say? String. So now you know how to identify, that is for type of. But by right we can figure out from the number and the figure, etc. Okay, the number and the letters and the words, etc. But sometimes there are scenarios and there's a code, so it will read it as string, as you've seen earlier. Okay, so are you clear until here? Is there anything more, or is there anything that I have actually left out? If I have, you can mention it in the comment section. But here until now I'll be only covering this much so that you don't get confused if I do too much, and later on I'll continue